Ladies and gentlemen, your hosts, Michael Wilkes, Angel Ortiz, Dr. Chad, and Sam La Cavera. Go check out beardedbrowns.com and be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to our bi-week beard extravaganza show. As you can see, it's the most handsome of men with the beard that are on the show today. Just two of us. Mike is back there producing
Hiding.
today. It's going to be a fun show today. Today we will go through our preseason picks. It's halfway through, so we're going to go see what we look like. You know, whether it's a good, bad, or ugly, how our picks turned out. We will give our midseason grades, and we will have Jake Burns on the show from Browns Film Breakdown. But first we have to clean house. This past weekend, I was on the Dogs podcast show, and Chad felt like I misrepresented him from our last show. So I'm going to give Chad the floor so he can clear the air.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. First of all, it was good that we talked about it because I was like, wow, I'm definitely misrepresenting either what I'm like trying to say about the quarterback situation right now, or it's just not getting understood. So I was like, yeah, we probably should clarify because like this stuff you're saying, I don't think that at all. So I'm like, I must have shared that like crap last week. So here's the basics because this carries over to anybody who's watching us today who follows us on X. I do most of our X conversations. Mike will add content. Angel creates a bunch of content for us, a bunch of the pictures, videos. I do most of the posting and then like conversing. And so I have had some back and forth with people about that because like I feel sometimes like you're in a scenario where if like you don't crush a guy for the Browns, then you get kind of flipped as like a giant supporter. And so I'm like, maybe some of that is the case. But we talked about sitting Dylan Gabriel if we've seen enough of Dylan Gabriel, and when is the time to just bench Dylan Gabriel? So, and what I said was, I don't know that you bench him right now, and I think the misrepresentation was that because I need to see more of him, and so I want him to keep playing so I can see if he becomes like our franchise quarterback. To clear the air, I do not think Dylan Gabriel is going to be our franchise quarterback. None of the three of us do. And none of us did even when he got drafted. We kind of all felt like maybe he can like game manage enough that he could hold down the fort for a while. But most likely he's just a backup that they really like because of like some of the breakdown of his makeup and his mentality. So here's the basic thoughts of where I am with Dylan Gabriel. I still think the same thing. I still think he's a backup. And I still, but I would put it two ways. If he continues to play for any reason, whether Sanders stinks or he gets injured or they're just being uber patient with him, I do expect that he will continue to get better. I would think we all think that. But more than that, I'm at the point where I have no idea what's going on with Shedeur Sanders. And it would be wonderful if we got the Shedeur Sanders that came out and looked really flashy for Carolina. I'm very worried that the Shedeur Sanders, the way they're treating him in practice is the actual Shedeur Sanders from the Rams game that was like running backwards, spinning in circles, getting balls batted down, getting sacked, like fumbling. And so my thought on continuing with Dylan Gabriel is simply I can stand watching Dylan Gabriel play more games. I don't want to bench him based on his current play. I want them to bench him when they know I think Sanders can go in there and do better than how he's doing, and it won't set him back at all. It won't it won't stunt his development. I have to get the feeling, and everybody doesn't agree, that part of the problem of why he got so little play in the summertime and like in training in mini camps and rookie camps, like he did a ton. As soon as it came to running Browns plays against NFL type defense, they pretty much took him out of the game. So I have to think if they're being honest with like the what we're seeing in the background and there's the truth to that thought that he's like was having trouble like with the plays in the huddle and having trouble with film and having trouble like breaking down how to run the offense. The last thing I want to do is bench Dylan, put him in there. He looks for 2 games in a row like he looked in the Rams games, like lost. The team is kind of in disarray, and now you're sitting there like, I guess, do we put Dylan back in for the rest of the season? Or so now Sanders, if you do that, is shot mentally and like it just seemed like my nightmare is the old Browns, the times when they would like play a quarterback and he looked bad, and the next week they would like trade him, and then now they're playing like a third stringer that you didn't even think would play this season as a rookie, and then by the end of the year he's so shot that they cut him like in the next offseason. So I'm just trying to avoid that like Browns dumpster fire of old, where it's like, oops, we got too impatient and frustrated with what we were seeing, so we just thought, who cares if this guy's ready? He's the next man up, and you throw him in. So that is where I'm at with this quarterback. I would expect Dylan to get better. I will be disappointed if the real him is what we saw last week. But
Yeah.
I'm not keeping him in there because I think he will get better enough to be a starter. I don't think he'll be better enough to keep you from drafting a quarterback next year. I would have had to see like Russell Wilson or at worst Brock Purdy level play in the first year from him to be like, maybe you don't draft a quarterback next year. If it wasn't anything other than that, I think you have to draft somebody. That's why I'm like, yeah, you could move on from him now because I don't think that's the direction they're going. But for me right now at this point, don't want to see Bailey Zappi if we don't have to, and I don't want to rush Shador. I will tough out 2 more games or whatever it takes of like dinking and dunking and no like fun in the offense to try to give Sanders the best chance to succeed.
Yeah, I guess we can see how Dylan plays against the Jets. Obviously, if you're not paying attention to NFL trading deadline, Jets traded off 2 major pieces of their defense, a pass rush. They're one of
Monster
the
players,
best.
guys.
Yeah, they're
Monster
they're
players.
getting the number 1 pick. They're looking at they want their option at quarterback, and they're trying to beat people to it. So
They're
if
gonna have
he
a pile
doesn't,
of firsts.
yeah, the next 2 years they can
Yep.
get a receiver. I mean, they can get a lot
Yeah.
these next couple of years. But we'll see how he plays with the week prep on the bye week and
Mhm.
with the limited defensive players that they
Yeah.
have on the Jets there. I'm worried personally about our defense on the road, and we'll get into those stats a little later when we give our defensive grades.
You guys,
But
if you have to stick around for that. It is friggin'
it's
shocking
yeah.
when you
Yeah,
see the
stick around for the
defensive stats.
defense. Stick around for the
Like,
mid-season grades.
it's
It's pretty,
crazy. It's
yeah.
crazy.
Um, let's get into it. First, the Browns trading deadline this year was as quiet as the offense. Very quiet. Didn't do anything much other than trade JTS, Joe Tryon Sorinka. It was close. And a 7th-round pick, and they received a 6th-round pick next year. That's all they did, other than the Flacco thing. I kind of I thought I had this thought in my mind that well, I don't know if you saw that Mike Hall Jr. posted trade on X, and then it got took down right away. So I thought, wow, they're going to either trade him or Malik Collins because there's value there. Malik Collins, they probably can get more because he's a veteran for a team that wants to win now, or Mike Hall, a younger defensive tackle because there's depth there. So I thought maybe they can move one of those. They can get a solid receiver or offensive lineman, a backup offensive lineman they can bring back next year and kind of like do a swing tackle or whatever. But nothing. We've heard the Browns are buyers. The Browns are buyers and not going to be sellers, but yet they did absolutely not. They just stayed there.
They did actually the most Browns move of all time, and it was and I don't hate it. There's nothing against this move. Joe Tryon Shoyinka played, I think, 30 snaps for us this
Yeah.
entire year so far. And you get to the point where you're like, they're splitting time between McGuire and Alex Wright, and that's who Shoyinka's behind. If one of those guys goes down, or if even Miles goes down for a while, like those two, the other two that are standing, will just probably play more, than and then behind them, you think like somebody like Aiden Huntington, they would rather get like time and development with than Shoyinka. So you're almost like they did the most Browns thing ever, where it's like, well, we're not using him, so he's just a roster spot, and so they traded him and a seventh for a sixth, and they've been doing so much of like have Joe Flacco in a seventh for a fifth, or have Shoyinka in a seventh for a sixth, or
Switch
they
up a
do a
little bit.
lot of those like here's a player and a piece for like just a slightly better draft pick.
Yeah,
But they've
to
been doing
put
that
the
for years.
defense
They
up.
love that move.
Yeah, they do, and they have a lot of middle picks. They're gonna run with the second day picks as of right now. I think they have like 5
What did they started
fifth
with
round
like
picks.
they started with like 5 fifth round
Or
picks last year too, and they ended up trading
for
4 of
Shador.
them by the end to move
Yeah,
around. But like
yeah.
that's such a crazy thing. They go with so many late draft picks, fifth and sixth rounders.
Yeah. On to the bigger news of the week. Kevin started off his press conference with letting the people know I am giving my play calling up to Tommy Reese. Big shocker for most people. Actually for all, I mean, it was shocking me that too that he just came out. He did no one asked him a question. He just came out with it. He led with it. He said, "Hey, I'm giving up play calling time. Reese is going to take care of it. I believe in him, such and such and such." And that was about it. Were you shocked?
Well, I'll say this: if he was going to do it, this is the time to do it. I'm a little bit perplexed at why he chose to do it at this moment. Like, I guess we could try to like brainstorm like two or there's multiple different reasons he might have done it, but I am kind of surprised he did it at all this year because like even though he did it last year, I thought he was doing it to like almost say like I didn't want to hire this guy. His offense stinks. I'll let him call it, and you'll see that it's not me calling it. I almost kind of felt like that, like he was handing it over to say like, guys, you got to see like this is the offense, not the order of the plays that I'm calling. This year, I'm like, I feel like he just brought Tommy Reese in. Tommy's young. Tommy feels more like a hand selection. Like I want to keep this guy around. Um, and so I don't know why he did it, but I guess it's the bye week. It's also not what the complaint I had last year was they changed quarterbacks and play callers at the same time, and it
Yeah.
makes it very hard to tell if you get up or down. Like, well, which thing was it? So I'm glad it's while they still have Dylan, now we can see a different play caller with him, and we don't. If it looks better, we just can know like, okay, the flow to his play calling, it's not that they brought in Shador or Zappy, it's that it's the play calls because they're not even going to change the offense. Like this offense has been designed between the two of them and
Yeah.
probably other offensive minds all year. Like Tommy's not going to come in and the offense will change, but he may run different play sets. He may put in different personnel, and he may just call different plays. So this will be a good chance for like if you're watching this and you're like hating it, this will give you a good chance for everybody like me who's been like, is it the quarterback stinks so bad and like the receivers that they just can't run anything and the linemen are hurt or whatever, or is it like this offense, you know, has stunk?
Yeah, for me, it's confusing because if he can't do any worse than what it is, right? So
We always say that. You know how
yeah,
my
yeah,
feelings on
true. I mean,
that.
well, statistically, right? So points
Yeah,
per
they're
game to
32nd
32.
on PFF, and I
Total,
think you said earlier like they're
total
32nd
yards,
in total
total
offense.
yards per game to 28, passing per game
Yeah.
22. I mean, points per play dead last, yards per play 31st, third down conversion rate dead last, red zone percentage whenever
Yeah,
they get in
awful.
there, it's 27. So they're not good. So my
I know
issue
their
is going to be
EPA
this:
per
if
play is a
he,
joke.
yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to keep track of obviously because they split it in half here, which is perfect, right? You could do 9 games and 9 games, or split the season literally in half for Kevin's offense and how uh, Tommy call plays and see what improved. Because if it's a big improvement, you have to start wondering like what what was Kevin doing wrong? that Tommy
Well,
Rees did it right.
in our heads, we'll wonder that, but I think the idea is, like, I don't think there's anything he can do to get himself a new job next year. Like, I don't think he's gonna, like, vault himself into a head coach. So at least if he's doing better, I can think, okay, so we've got a guy that can call this offense, and the offense actually still does work, and I'll feel better. I will leave questions of like, I wonder what the heck Kevin was doing differently, and that's something we may have to,
That's
go over down the line with Jake. Like, what concepts are you seeing differently now? But again, I don't think he'll change the offense. I think he'll just run different plays and maybe run different personnel in
yeah,
different or
I read that he's big on run game, so I think you're gonna see a lot more running, obviously,
yeah.
because hopefully
Maybe
that's what
those
it's
2
gonna
games
be
where we
needed.
complained that they, like, didn't run enough in the first half, and it really set them back to where they had to quit on it earlier than they should have. I think we had 2 of those games this year that we kinda made those comments, and it'd be interesting to see if, like, he shifted that a little bit.
Yeah. See, my issue then is like if now I don't expect Tommy to come in and be drastically better to where they move from like 32 to 20. I mean, I think that's impossible with this offense and the talent that's on this team. But if Tommy runs this offense with Dylan Gabriel, who looked horrible the last 4 games, I'm on record saying that, and he looks better and better and better each week, then I'm going to have to start questioning what role does Kevin have? Because if Tommy Reese is making people look better as an offensive play caller, then I need to know what Kevin's role is. Is he a leader? Is he a cheerleader? Is he doing day to day? Because Kevin, and I know we'll probably disagree on this, Kevin did come in here with an offensive mind, with an offensive strategy that worked for 2 years.
Yep.
And now there's some things that drastically change, obviously, one big position, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden everything gets cut in half from points per game. The whole offense looks stagnant, and he looks like he cannot call a play. And even when he was calling plays, he was never in the top 10. He was always middle road type of offensive play caller or giving you type of offensive output. So my question would be, will that be enough for us to obviously the goal is always to win a Super Bowl, to win a Super Bowl? Or do you need to somehow get Kevin to go into an offensive workshop to work some more
But
innovative
that I
plays?
guess that kind of becomes a question. If Tommy Rees is sh shows that he's pretty successful as an offensive coordinator, like, then I guess you just Kevin shifts out of that role a little bit. I guess, like, I'll wonder what his deal has been on offense still, but I'll just more like, you can't move on from him now because if you fire your head coach, everybody's fired, and now
Yeah,
you're starting.
everyone's
There is
gone.
no, like, people always have this idea, like, you fire Stefanski, you bring in this guy, and then you keep Tommy Rees, and you keep it's like,
It
dude, they're not
rarely
gonna pair these
happens.
guys together. If a new head coach comes in, he's bringing in all of the people he likes. Like, so but, like, if this Tommy thing works and they're looking better, then I think you just let Kevin not run that role until the Tommy Rees in 3 years gets a head coaching
And
call.
hopefully Kevin learns from Tommy and incorporates that
Right,
in his
that's what
offense, right?
or during this time, over
You
the
train
next
somebody
2,
else up.
3 years, they hire other coaches, and one of them is working with Tommy closely, and when he leaves, he understands that stuff really well, and he gets a promotion or, you
Oh, James Frank brings up a good point on YouTube. He says his offensive success left when Alex Van Pelt and Callahan. Oh, I wouldn't put much on Callahan.
No,
That
I'm very happy he said that. That is a really good point.
that's a
We
very good
underest
point.
Could we have underestimated how impactful Alex Van Pelt was here? Because I thought the offense looked like one of the better ones I've ever seen here in 2020. In 2021, it looked, I would say, it looked pretty good for playing with a quarterback that was missing a shoulder for the whole season. 2022, after Baker left, he still held it together with Jacoby Brissett, who I don't
Mhm.
think is good at all. And then we went 3-3 with Watson. And then the next year, Watson looked like he was getting better every week up to that Ravens game and got hurt. And then the end of that season, like they were able to win games with PJ Walker, DTR, who I think is the worst quarterback I've ever seen.
Ever.
And yeah, and I'm not, yeah, that's sadly not an exaggeration. And then we went on to end that season with Joe Flacco. They wanted him fired because they wanted somebody who could make Watson look as good as Joe Flacco looked at the end of that season. And we never really counted out or counted in the idea that like that has been their biggest mistake since was he and Kevin just really, really nailed the offense.
Yeah, I wonder if they can go back and just go get him and say,
He was
"Hey, we're
wasn't he
sorry."
working for New England? I thought he was working for New
Probably.
England
I mean,
and
and
he
that
got
would
let
make
go.
sense because that would make sense because I mean, Drake May is lighting it up right now.
Well, it's right now they have
Oh, McDaniels. Yeah, you're right.
McDaniel in that spot,
Yeah.
but
Well, they're
which is not a surprise, by the way. What a freebie for Vrabel to be able to work with McDaniel, who's been in New England like the entire. They've known each other for so long, and for him to be able to just have that asset there, a guy who is always been a great offensive coordinator, but nobody wants to give him a third attempt at a head coaching job because it was so messy that like he might be the guy that just stays in OC for the next 20 years.
yeah.
The dream.
Yeah,
It's like Schwartz.
yeah.
It's like having a guy who's like very good at playing a coordinator and is pretty much his head coaching shots are done and he doesn't
Over.
even want to do it anymore. So you're like, well, as long as this defense works, we can keep him because he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, wonder what's gonna come out of this Tommy Reese thing. Hopefully he plays to the strengths of the offense and doesn't get too much. And then I wonder how well clock management will be with Kevin's perspective because I know he'll be in charge of that. Let's see if the team grows from there. Maybe more disciplines installed where he's focusing
And
on position groups
I would
and
say this, maybe he has a chance to be a little more like we've seen him be kind of like excited or emotional when like there's certain circumstances, but like maybe not having to be so focused on the play calls, he can actually like relax and like interact more with his team.
so Sam, who's on the Saturday show, said it doesn't matter who's calling plays, they're still using the same playbook. I would say I agree. I get what you're saying, but I think
Yeah,
one of
it's
the
true. We're not
biggest
going to
things
see
with yeah.
a giant switch in scheme.
But one thing I would say is the situational play calling will change. A lot of us don't like Kevin's situational play calling. So that's out of his hands. So if Reese is really truly calling plays, the situation in which a run play is called should improve. So you're not running on 2nd and 8. Maybe you're doing a pass at 2nd and 8 as opposed to running the ball. But we'll see how that works out there. But it should be interesting. I'm glad that he gave it up. I'm a big hopeful that maybe Dylan will start to look good because he's trending toward the DTR line for me.
Yeah. It's
Um,
interesting because I think it was Brad Ward that might have said it. That I might have heard him say um, he thought it was an interesting move because it's kind of like a lose-lose because if Tommy looks bad, then he looks bad
yeah,
for giving it to him, and if Tommy looks good, he looks bad for Tommy looking better than him. But I think the reality is, if this starts to look better, that's better for him.
yeah.
Your best case scenario is he trusts him to call the plays, and that's the reason. And like he likes the way he does it, and they talk about what he would have called in situations. And Kevin goes, "Oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. We should do that." And that's what you're hoping. This decision was not made out of like desperation or frustration or like last year, like to show that it was not all on him. You hope this move is ideally because Tommy's going to be good at it, and Tommy helped him design this offense, and he thinks like if Tommy is good enough to call this offense, and I can focus on other things, everyone gets better. That's the best case scenario that we can hope for.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to move on to preseason predictions brought to you by Allstate. Call Doug White from Allstate Insurance. Let him get you a quote. Maybe he will save you some money. Preseason predictions. It is right there. Let me bring it to the stage. Yeah, so here's our Yeah, most of our preseason predictions here.
Yeah. So I picked the games. The way we really did preseason predictions is we all picked a game, how many games we thought the Browns could win, give or take one, plus or minus one. And then I just filled this out for myself, and then I just put an extra W down to represent the other guy. So basically, I picked 5-7, Angel picked 6-8, and Mike picked 7-9. Those were the ranges we thought the Browns could win. And so I took the middle number for mine and I put 6 Ws where I thought they would be most likely to come on the schedule. And then I put a W at the end between the Steelers and the Bengals to represent like somewhere along the way, maybe here at the end, there's the 1 to 2 more wins that Angel and Mike had originally predicted. Um, Currently, it's almost depressing how close I was. And I really thought, like, I'm gonna get crushed for this because people are gonna be like, "Hey, idiot! Of course we can beat the Bengals to open the season, and like, will like the Steelers have Rodgers? He's gonna be so old. He's gonna suck." Like, people called me out on some of these early, and I thought I would have gotten it worse, but I think a lot of people were in the mindset of like, "Yeah, this team's not gonna win many games, dude. You, the 5 you picked is optimistic." And then now looking at it, I thought we would beat the Vikings. Instead, we somehow beat the Packers, and I thought we'd beat the Dolphins, and those were the only 2 wins I thought we would have by the bye week. And so here we sit at
2.
2 and whatever we are now, 2 and 6, and sitting on our bye week. So I guess my question so there's no real question for me. My prediction kind of is going the way I thought it would, and so I'm just gonna leave it and say, like, if you were to ask me today, like, would you rather pull back or add more? I would probably just say I'm gonna leave it with my
Yeah.
2 wins before the bye week and 4 wins after. I think other people are more pessimistic than me and would pull back, but I just feel like I'm so far I'm lined up, I'm just gonna let it ride. And I was wondering
Yeah, for me,
from
I
you and
had
Mike.
them winning the Bengals and winning the Dolphins. So I still had 2 wins going into the bye week.
Okay.
Actually,
So
no,
with
I'm
that
sorry, I
being
had
said,
3. I apologize. I had 3
oh, you
because
had
I did
3.
have them I did have hopeful thinking that they would beat Minnesota. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I did have an extra
Me
win
too.
there. So I had us at 3 and 5.
And I thought
And
both those games would be Flacco, by the way. I thought that change, if we I had a feeling we would probably just change to whichever quarterback was ready, and I expected Dylan against the Jets after the bye week. And
yeah,
since this
me
is
too.
coming up as the first week I thought they'd be playing, those 2 wins I picked, I both thought were with Flacco. To be fair, to give you props, like, we outplayed the Bengals. We absolutely should have won that game. So
We should have beat the
I like
Vikings.
it would have been cool if I were wrong on that one. So my question to you would be like, so you're only 1 game behind what you had picked so far. So are you thinking you would stick with your prediction, or do you just think
Yeah,
it
I think
looks
it's
worse than you thought, so you'd reel them
I
back?
think it's one less because I do see us I'm cautiously optimistic against the Jets, even though the defense seems to be dismantled over there, because I don't like the way our defense plays on the road. I
Yeah.
personally don't think we're gonna win in Vegas because we never win there. Uh, 49ers, I would never go up against Shanahan because he's smarter than Jim Schwartz, and, Tennessee and the I would give a win there. The Bears offense right now, but I did have that as a win originally because I didn't think they would win. But yeah, so 1, 2, 3. That would be my 3 wins: the Jets, Titans, and Bears.
Okay.
Um, so that's
So so
I
you
would
would
have
end up,
that. So yeah, that
so
was
instead
my
of 6, you would
6.
go down to 5. Okay.
Yeah, I would go down to 5.
Yeah, so you would go down 1. And I'm
Yeah,
just looking at, like, yeah, it's just kinda sad, like, the sad thing is, and I guess the point of, like, why I wanted to go over this at the midseason is, like, we're all so down right now because we have to watch this every week, but the reality is, and not everybody did, but I had some people that are super pissed and said they thought the Browns would win 3 this year and would be picking in the top 3 in the draft. And
that's
then
crazy.
now I hear them though, like, "I can't believe this." And I'm like, this is exactly what you thought would happen. Like, what yeah, how else did you think this would go down if you thought they're gonna win 3 games total? They already have 2 and it's only the bye week. Like, they're actually way ahead of probably what you thought. So it's weird to see those people frustrated. But I think part of the reason I'm not as frustrated as the others is because look at our picks. We thought we'd have 2 wins by now. You thought we'd have 3. You were only off by 1, and
Yeah.
we should have beat the Bengals. So it's like you were right on of what you thought the talent of the team was, is exactly what they are.
I
But
guess
I
for
think we're just all
me,
frustrated because we're watching it happen.
yeah, for me, it's how they lost to the Bengals and how they lost to the Vikings and how
Messy.
they currently look, even beating the Miami Dolphins. I thought they would be somewhat comparable, somewhat of an offense. But the fact
Yeah.
that their offense looks so bad and still 32 in the
Yep.
league is what makes it discouraging for me.
Yeah. The defense is actually better than I expected this year. And I think if our offense was good, we would have a very good
Oh, yeah.
chance of
You would
fighting
be
for this
Pittsburgh
division. I mean,
with the way,
I just
yeah.
think, like, you give us the receivers have looked like poo, but I say you give 2 good tackles and a real, like, a for legit franchise quarterback, this would be a very competitive team even without, like, a star receiver. They would just utilize other guys, but, yeah, it's pretty disappointing 'cause it I think the defense suffers from the offense, so if the offense was any good, this defense, which is, like, 3rd in yards allowed, literally might be the best defense in the NFL again if they had the type of offense they had in 2023 when they were the best defense in the NFL. They just had that kind
Yeah.
of point scoring. Even with Watson, forget, like, yeah, Flacco blew up at the end of that season, but, like, even Watson was 4-1, and they were, like, not an explosive offense, but they were, like, a consistent offense that could at least get first downs to keep the defense off the field and score some points. It's just they took a dip last year, offensive woes or not. This year, they're, like, right back up to where if we just were competent on defense, I mean, on offense, I think we'd be talking about this being by far the best defense in the league.
Yeah, and I also think, yeah, I think we would be Pittsburgh, what, 5-3? Yeah, 5-3, 6-3, and they win that game last week against who did they play last week? It was a good game. They were behind most of the game. They came back. Either way, they're playing good, man. And it's like, why can't we look somewhat like that? It's just frustrating. And that's why I mean, like,
And
it's
again, we'll get
discouraging.
some answers from Jake
Yeah,
and as the season goes on, but, like, my big question is, like, is it that Dylan is as bad as people said he would be? And I was like I said, I thought he'd be mid. I thought he's gonna be a long-term backup. I did think the same as you. I expected him to be a little better. I thought what we saw in the first games, which I thought
yeah,
like those were, like, diabolical starts, like, to go to London with only 2 days of practice and not having any, like, been taking any first team reps, like, or, like, in as Flacco had become the starter, and then, or barely any as far as we know, and then going straight to Pittsburgh on the road once you get back from traveling back from London, which is, like, jet lag like crazy, probably another rough week of practice, go into Pittsburgh, which, like, we've seen what they've done to rookie quarterbacks, like Mike Tomlin and that defensive staff, like, destroy rookie quarterbacks. They just play mind games with them, get them slowed down, and just crush them. And then, like, he didn't look good in either of those games, even though he had them in position to win the Vikings game. But I thought, okay, if he can look like that against those 2 teams, we should be seeing something, like, better once the defenses go down. And then he didn't even throw the ball
Pittsburgh.
in
Well, he did throw the ball too
Cleveland
much
against
against.
Miami, like, they had no passing game whatsoever
Yeah,
there, and then the next game when he starts throwing again, like, this is the worst game that he had. Like, I would've said that would've been an okay result for me if that was, like, his first game in Pittsburgh. I would've been like, "Well, they did what they do," but that being the 4th game was pretty frustrating. But I thought what we saw the first games was actually encouraging even though he wasn't good, because I thought, what rookie 3rd round pick is gonna be any good in these situations? Like,
yeah,
he's just doing enough to, like, manage the team, and that's a good start, and then he just crumbled last week. So,
yeah.
yeah, that was tough to watch.
We'll see how he is this week. He should be a little better. We'll see,
Yep.
though. We're going to move on to mid-season grades brought to you by Cleveland Ketchup. Go to clevelandketchup.com and use the code BEARDED, and you will save 10% off on your order. Delicious ketchup, delicious jalapeno mustard. Even their regular mustard's good, so give them a try and support the show by using the code BEARDED. We're going to do the Saturday show first. The Saturday show, we all did grades. Sam, Gary. Uh, on second thought, my producer is telling me to promote this live event happening this Saturday. The Bearded Browns will be live this Saturday at noon at the Moose Lounge in Elyria, Ohio. That's going to be from noon to, I don't know. Originally, they were going to do this and then watch the game. But I don't know if you know, they flipped the time chart to start from 4 to 1. So they're probably doing a live while the game is going, is what I'm going to assume, unless they pivot to only an hour show. Either way, uh, tune in live. I think this place you have to be a member to get in. I'm not 100% sure. But tune in live, chat with us in the chat and the chat boxes below. But yeah, support the show by coming live with us. Mike, Sam, and Gary, I believe, will be there. I'm going to try to go right now. My 7-month-old is really sick, so I doubt that I will be leaving the house. Unfortunately. But yeah, tune in for that. That's going to be a fun one. Thanks for the reminder, Mike. And don't mess with my board again. I'm just joking. We're going to move on to Saturday shows, grades. First, we're going to start. So we got a new guy named Gary. Gary has been on the show the last couple of Saturdays for the Browns Morning Brew. I'll do actually, let's do Mike's first. Mike's grades. At this age, right here. So we're going to grade each position group: offense, defense, GM, coaching, owner, and special teams. Mike's offense gets an F, which understandable.
They're
Defense,
second out
A
of
minus.
32.
Yes. See, if you're ranked 32 out of 32, you deserve more than
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. What grade you give? What could you give?
Yeah, you get a Z at this point. The defense gets an A minus, understandably so. They're actually the bright light on the bright light on the team. The GM gets a C. See, this is why I wish Mike was on the show so he can explain why a C for um Barry. Coaching a C
Yeah.
minus, owner a C, and a special teams a D. That's Mike's grades. We're going to move on to Sam, who's on the Saturday show at the stage. He says the offense gets a D. He's very kind. He's very kind. Even though they're ranked 32, he still gave him a D. He must be one of those teachers
He's
that,
hyped about Judkins. He's just like Judkins alone. I'm giving him a letter grade up.
yeah. Defense is a B. GM is a B. Coaching's a C. And you guys are very generous on your coaching grade. Owner a B, and special teams a C. Trying to think if I agree with the C on special teams.
I can see how you can get there, but I think I graded him lower.
Yeah, me too. I'm trying to think. Maybe he's very hopeful on Smitty kicking the ball and not being as accurate as pass kickers. So maybe that gave him a little hope.
That's all I can think of, and
That's
that's
all I
what
can
raised
really
my
think about
grade was
because
like,
our
if you have the
punt
kicker,
return.
you're in good shape for half of special teams. But
Yeah. So that's Sam's grade. Tune in Saturday, 10 o'clock. Actually, not this Saturday. We'll actually be going live at the Moose, but typical Saturdays at 10 o'clock. From 10 to 11, they go on, and they normally do the pregame, the game, the Sunday game. Next one will be the new guy. And by the way, this new guy, I'm gonna call him out, dude. This new guy, Gary, lives in Cleveland. I believe he was born in Cleveland, but he's not a Ohio State fan. He hates Ohio State.
did he go to
So
Cincinnati?
here's Gary. So
That's my wonder.
yeah, it's weird. Here's Gary's grades. Offense, F, understandably so. Defense, C. GM, F. Coaching, F. Owner, F. And the special teams, F. The only bright spot for Gary is the defense. And it's not really a bright spot. He just
Not
gives
that
him a
bright.
C.
It's
Yeah.
partly cloudy. Like,
Yeah, he's like, he barely passed. My goodness,
yeah,
Gary.
it feels mostly cloudy. With the
Maybe during
chance
the
of
pregame, Mike can have
hurricane.
them go through their grades and kind of explain why.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
because I'm trying to understand why he gave them all Fs. Uh, I'd see the offense and maybe coaching if you're bitter like me. Other than that, Everything else, I kind of think is a little above grade. I'll go with me next. I'll do Chad's last. My grades are here we go. Go
Worse than
me.
mine.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah,
here it is.
yours is worse than mine.
Offense F minus. I went as low as I can go. I'm one of those teachers. Grades. I don't grade on. Is it
I don't
grading?
even think that grade exists.
Yeah, I went
But
as low
I
as I
would
could
say
go.
this offense deserves a grade that got created
Yeah.
especially just for that. Like, we've created the F minus,
Yeah,
so
F minus. I didn't wanna do an F plus because that plus seems too positive. So
uh-huh.
F minus just adds more fear to the F in my opinion. The defense is a C minus, and I'm gonna get pushback on this. And the only reason why I think they C minus, maybe you can talk me to C plus, is I sent you guys a message. I said this team
Yeah.
on the road is horrible. Horrible on the road. Defensive stats on the road are is alarming. Okay, so let me read some to you. Rush defensive stats, home, away. Okay. Defensive stats in the red zone 43% at home, 68% away, meaning they allow more points on the road. You can't, if you're going to me, if you're going to get an A or even a B plus, you can't, that discrepancy is pretty high. Pass defense at home, 123 passing yards. Away, 219 passing yards. That's too big. That's too big. You
Double.
just
It's
that's yeah, it's
I'm
scary.
no math magician, but that
But
feels like
that's double.
double.
So in the rush
So
defense at home, they average 75.3 yards away, over 100 yards, 105 yards per game on the road. Points allowed at home. And this is what when I looked into this, it almost let me give him a D just because I'm a bitter Browns fan right now. I'm emotional. I get that. You guys can tell last week I was emotional. You guys were saying, Angel, calm down. Get it. I can't calm down right now.
he's losing it.
But the points allowed, 11 at home. Stellar, great, awesome. But away, they allow 30 points on the road. 30. Again, that's almost triple on the road. Touchdowns allowed, obviously, 1 at home. They average 3.4 on the road. Yards per play, 3 yards at home, 5 yards on the road. 2 plays, and they got a first down on the road. It's insane. First downs allowed, 12 at home per game, 18 on the road per game. To me, that uh, does not spell lights out B defense or even an A defense. If you want to be an A defense, you need to pick these up to be more balanced. And to me, I just can't handle that. And this is why, by the way, this is why I'm nervous about the Jets game because they still got a good running back, and Justin Fields can make you pay with his legs. And if you're allowing 100 yards rushing a game on the road, this is how they're going to attack you.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah, that's a big
digress.
difference.
Yeah, let's move to Chad's, and then Chad can explain it.
And so, first of all, I'd like to point out how Angel sent out this chart for each of us, and everybody seems to have taken it into Canva and put their letter grades, and I just literally hit edit and it wrote my grades with my finger, and then immediately, like, clicked send back. Now I'm like, "Oh, that was the laziest way to approach this."
Chad was like, "Oh man, I'm
F, F,
professional."
F. So,
I'll
okay.
give you full disclosure. The reason why Sam and Gary's was like that is because I did it. So
Okay.
that gives
I
you
was
a
like, "Man,
reason
I'm
why.
a lazy piece of crap." Alright, you want me to
Right?
go through these?
Yeah,
You wanna
you
go
can.
through
Yeah,
'em?
you can explain.
Okay, so offense, we've covered it. It's an F, and they deserve. I actually would change this to an F minus now that you've introduced that to the scale. I didn't even know that most 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 academic institutions do not even like insult people by putting a minus after the F, but they deserve it. Defense, I gave him an A minus. Hearing those on the road, yeah, that does give me pause. That's because you need to be able to be better on the road. You can't just play at that level in front of, like, the home energy. But I gave them an A minus because what I said earlier, they're only 3rd in the league in giving up total yards, and I just think if the offense was any good, even if the offense was a C, like, I think that's the level they are capable of. Um, the GM, I gave a B plus because if we're doing just if midseason reviews, I assume it's just based on, like, what have we seen this year? and like his quarterback selection was not good. But I love Schlesinger. I love Judkins. I see the upside of Dylan Sampson, and then I see the upside of Mason Graham, and I just think Harold Fannin is just doing more than I expected this early. And at 67, like he looks like a terrific future tight end. And we still have a guy on the bench who was higher rated overall than the quarterback we're playing. So it's like, yeah, the only negative of that is like you can add all the good you want, but you can't get an A when there's no quarterback. And the more Jackson Dart looks pretty good, or we'll
Mhm.
see. You guys know I really like Tyler Shuck in the second round, and he looked pretty good. I actually didn't think he'd go in the second round. I thought he might fall to us in the third. That's where I kept mock drafting him, but he looked pretty good in his uh first play. So like, if either of those guys are good and you had the chance to pick them, like you just don't get an A until I know that. Coaching, I gave a C plus. I didn't think that was that generous. Like Kevin's kind of holding it together. The offense, if part looks like trash, so the whole offensive staff, is obviously getting an F. But I think I gave the defense an A minus. So like, I think overall though they're like a C graded staff right now. I'm a little bit curious. I think this roster is set up to be a futures roster, not like a win now roster. The more I look at it, and so like I don't want to over penalize the coaches more than a C level, because I think this is a situation a lot of coaches on the offensive side. We couldn't hire a coach right now with the guys we have currently on this offense. No one would take this job um, as an OC or a head coach unless they're like, this is my only shot. So I'm going to give them a C plus. The owner a C because he hasn't done anything like dreadfully stupid, but also we're in this mess this year and all years because of the decisions he's made in the past.
Yep.
And special teams C minus. Like I looked at them as like a D level special teams. I think they came around. They played much better the last 2 weeks than they started, but they're like a D level team overall. But I like Larvadane jumping in as a returner now. It gives me some hope. I like who they have in a returner now, and I think they may have a kicker that they can
Yeah.
play with, and that's a big piece of it. So honestly, if it weren't for the kicker, though, this is probably like a D level special teams or less. So Smitty somehow bails them out. But yeah, those are my grades. Like I said, they feel generous compared to some of your guys's, but I didn't think I was doing them any favors except for maybe the
Actually, I think I forgot to give you the rest of mine. Coaching D plus, GMC minus. I would like to see, and maybe this is not hit. I mean, maybe we should put it on him, but I haven't seen enough out of Dylan, and I'm pretty still upset that he picked two quarterbacks in the draft, hoping that Tim Horton Jr. was there, and Tim Horton Jr.'s
Yeah.
up,
I mean,
lighting
at
it
the
up.
time though,
Yeah.
if
I
you
mean, I
thought
had him on my draft board. If they
I
would
know,
ask me, but
but
yeah,
if you
I agree
thought
with you
if
on
you thought if you thought Dylan was I mean, if you thought
Shador.
Sanders at the time was a second round talent even, and I didn't hear that many people that thought he was lower than second round
Yeah.
talent, and you're like, well, Sanders is still sitting there. We don't have any quarterback. We kind of do think he was a second round talent in this kind of offense, but I really want to take our wide receiver 4, like is who they probably was thinking at the time. That was probably going to be like
Yeah.
wide receiver 4, and so like, and is a sixth round, like he's a sixth round or fifth round pick. I think that's around where most people had him graded. So like, yes, looking at it now, I if Sanders doesn't work out, like you're like, well, crap, you could have just grabbed Horton.
Or
But
even if,
I'm
like,
more concerned about Dylan.
you
I'm still
swap
more
out
like,
Shador for Dylan, like, if you had took Shador and then a receiver down the line, I'm sure there's a
yeah.
receiver that probably would have been playing a little bit better than
In
what.
that situation, we probably both think that uh, Kenny Pickett is still on this team and probably
Yeah.
currently starting, and Joe Flacco would probably also be on this team until the same time. It
Yeah,
probably would
because
have
they
been
would
Joe
be
Flacco to
definitely
start.
wanting to win.
Then they would
Yeah.
have traded Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett would be playing right now, and Sanders would be behind him. But yeah, and again, I didn't like where they picked Dylan. I just think I like Dylan more than others. But when you look back at it, there were people on the board. In fact, one person specifically I wanted on the board when they picked Dylan, and that was Xavier Watt.
Yes,
the
that's what I was
safety
thinking.
from
Safety.
yeah,
Yeah.
that ended up going to, the Falcons. That was my absolute pick, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's just sitting there for us, like, at in the 90s. That's incredible." I thought he would go, like, late 2nd round or early 3rd round, and so, like, when I look back at it, I guess I'm still less frustrated they picked Sanders at 5 than I am that they picked Dillon so early at
Yeah.
94. But again, if you we'll see how it works out. If they
Yeah.
didn't pick Dillon there, maybe they pick him at 126 and we don't have, like,
Sanders.
Dylan Sampson, but right now he's
Samson,
not a
yeah,
big part of the
Samson.
team.
Yeah, and that's another thing, like, Samson should they need it. Maybe Reese, going back to the Reese point, maybe he incorporates Dylan somehow,
Maybe,
Samson a little bit. No, we'll see.
maybe.
Coaching D plus. The reason why is because I just haven't seen good coaching on this team. On the road, the defense sucks. The offense sucks. Coaching sucks. Discipline. They still have some penalty issues. Special teams, horrible. Like, what is the coaching he's doing? D plus. Owner, I give him a C, and I think that's where he should stay. He did impact. He's very vocal, saying, "Hey, Kevin's getting another shot because I messed things up with Watson. We shot with Watson and we missed." And special teams C minus because of. I mean, they're not doing anything to win games right now, and they seem to stop doing things to lose games, which is a good thing. As for
Yeah.
no watch them lose a game next week. But those are our mid-season grades this week or this year.
The bad news is even the most optimistic of the grades were like if you just put them all together and combine them, they end up being like a C minus, and that's
Yeah,
that
that's
sucks.
not good. It's not good, and that's why, like, I had a lot of questions, people asking me this past couple of days, like, if they fire Kevin, do you keep AB? Or if they fire AB, do they keep Kevin? And I just hate the way this, and this is partially why I think Haslam needs to get a C, is because I think the organizational structure needs to change. If they get rid of these two and they start over, they need to have a GM hire a coach. Don't hire a coach and then hire a GM. Don't do things
Yeah.
backwards. I
I'm
don't like
fine
that.
with there's very few scenarios like you guys know I was in love with Kyle Shanahan when he was here. If they
Yeah.
would have made him in that position and then he had been involved at least in hiring the GM, I would have been okay with that. But like there are very few head coaches in the league that I trust enough or that I would value so much that I would let them hire the GM. And it's guys like McVay, Andy Reid, and I don't even think they want to like hire the GM. But if I let them be like, okay, we like these 3 guys, we interviewed him. Which one do you get along with, or can you work with? Final say, fine. But I'm with you. I've always thought the best route was to hire a high level GM,
Yep.
let him have like say over who the staff should be under him, and hire his head coach. And that was our model until Dorsey hired Freddie Kitchens over the guys that the owner and the chief strategy officer wanted. And then those guys that they wanted ended up better than Kitchens. And that's where they were like, yeah, we need to change this up. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, Paul DePodesta wanted them to hire or wanted them to fire Hugh Jackson and hire who's the head coach for the Bills?
McDermott, right?
McDermott. Yeah,
Yep.
Sean McDermott. So that was so I guess if you're the owner and you're like, like we're staying with Hugh Jackson when Dorsey comes in and you got your chief strategy officer or this might have been the year before saying like, I think we ought to bring in McDermott, and they decide not to, and then McDermott looks like a pretty good coach, and then the next year he's like, here's my favorite candidates, and Freddie Kitchens is who gets hired. I could see why you would take the pivot of, you know what, when it comes to hiring the head coach, the GM, we're not having him do it. Like we're either going to do it as a group or go under like this umbrella of what DePodesta thinks. And no matter what you think of DePodesta, as far as like there's nothing. This organization has been more bad than good since he's been here, especially during the tank years. But that was the one thing that was like, yeah, he seems to come up with better coaching candidates than what they were coming up with in the past, and that might be
Yeah, and
his
you
only
can even
saving
say
grace.
yeah, you can even say Mark McDermott looks good
Sean
because
McDermott. Yeah.
Sean McDermott because his quarterback makes him look good, and it goes
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
to is the coach good or the coach needs a quarterback to work
Could be.
with, and that's an argument maybe even for Kevin. Like you said in the beginning, like in the beginning before we got on, um, is I would like to see Kevin with an actual quarterback, somebody
The
who's
only argument for him. There's nothing
yeah,
else that we've seen, right? In the last there's nothing else in the last 2 years we've seen that's been like, well, Kevin, though, he's done this thing really good. There is no good to see. My only holdout is like, I'm not sure how many coaches could be good with these guys, right? So it's like, it's not even an optimism. It's just like, I wouldn't bet on it. Like, I'm not sure if he's
like
terrible
yeah,
because I wouldn't want to coach any of these guys. I think they'd all
like
make me look terrible.
yeah, Andy Reid, he struggled to win a Super Bowl in Philly, right? And then he goes to Kansas City, finds his quarterback, and now he's going to be one of
Yeah.
the greatest head coaches in the history of NFL because he found his quarterback. Um, but we'll see what happens with that. We're going to move on to position groups trending up or trending down. I think our
Yeah,
guest will
and
be
this is
here in a couple
basically
minutes.
like obviously there's groups like we could go over. We just talked about the disappointment as a team, so it's not worth going over the offensive line and being like, "Are you happy with them or disappointed?" It's more like we just watched the first 8 games of them. Do you think this group is getting better over the next 8 games, or do you think this group is getting worse, basically? And maybe not even the second half of the season, like going forward, is this
Yeah.
group getting better or worse?
The first group position group we're going to have is offensive line. I put down obviously because they're old, and they're struggling this year, and I would like to see them obviously get younger. I think they're going to need to get younger eventually.
I think they are. I have them as up because they're down from what my expectation was for this year, but up because I'm just hopeful. This is probably a little bit
Mhm.
of hope, but I'm hopeful Conklin can stay in, and then Levinston between Levinston and Cam Robinson on the other side. If they stay healthy and they stabilize it, I think they could be a better line for the second half of the season than when they were rotating guys every week for a month and a half. So I
Yeah.
have them slightly up out of just consistency.
Next one is running back. I put baseline because I think they're going to be even because I think
Yeah.
they need to figure out who's running back number two in order to grow. And I think it needs to be Samson because I think Ford just a third down guy that he's going to be catching, and he's not going to be here next year. So, which is why,
Samson's more explosive and has, to me,
yeah,
more upside than Ford. I think Ford is just here because he can block on third down and Samson can't yet, and that's the only reason I think he's playing. And also, he's on the last year of his contract, and so if they're gonna get somebody pummeled, I guess they're like, we'll let Samson develop his blocking skills and Ford can just get bashed for now. But I
yeah,
have them actually as down because I'm a little concerned about, the shoulder for Judkins, and I think if
yeah,
it might not hold him out any games. Like I guess they're calling him day to day, and he got to sit through the bye, so he's gonna get 2 weeks of rest. But like this is something that could nag. So if like he has like a couple fumbles, or if like he just has to they don't get to ramp him up the way I hoped they would for the second half of the season, and he's got to like take less carries to like protect himself, then I think this can only go down. So I would say baseline's a fair answer, but I would say down a little bit for the
yeah.
rest of the season. In the future,
Yeah, for the
feel
rest of
very
the
good about it.
season, what do you think about our wide receiver group? I have down, down, down. I told you guys this stat before we hopped on. The Browns receiving group only has 2 touchdowns this year. These touchdowns were caught by one receiver, and his name is Tillman, who's been
Yeah.
hurt most of the year, and he's coming back this against the Jets game, thankfully. So if your receivers are not catching touchdowns, which is part of their job, then you can't have any hope but down.
Yeah, see, I had the opposite. I thought up for 2 reasons. One, I know I always like call everybody out for saying this, but God, I can't imagine it gets any worse. Like I just don't know if they can get any worse. Jerry Judy's ranked like 120th out of 134 receivers on PFF. Tillman hasn't played like he was moderately effective to start the season. I was like, okay, he's picking up where he left off last year. Then he's out for a month, and you're like, oh my God, like the
Yeah.
guy just can't stay on the field, but he's back. So I'm like, well, I don't know if Jerry Jeudy could technically get a little worse, but I just think he's going to pop back up a little. And
Hopefully.
yeah, and then Tillman is back at least. And like I said, Malachi Corley and Isaiah Bond have no business being out there. Neither of them were even in our training camp. And like the fact that they're even putting them on the field before they've had a few months with the team at their age is like it's a sign of how desperate this is. So I don't have very high expectations, but I'm just like up because they bottomed
They're
out.
they're already at the bottom, yeah. Well, we're gonna stop it here. Our guest with us today is joining with us today is the man from Browns Film Breakdown. He breaks down film and he talks about the team that we love talking about every week. I don't know how he does it, but he does it on you do it 2 or 3 times a week. You do offense, defense, and sometimes you do extra
Yeah.
special plays. He's all over X. Follow him on X. He puts up little snippets there. He also has a Substack that he will talk about before he leaves, an opportunity to dive even deeper, which I enjoy doing weekly. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Jake Burns from Browns Film Breakdown. How you doing, sir?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me. You know, you could probably just skip all that by being like, this guy cosplays as a coach online. That's like his thing. You know, he watches film like a loser and tries to break. Nah, that's too kind of you. Thanks for the nice words, man. Appreciate it. I know you've always brought some good spice to what we do over here. Some good conversation, some of the passion that we love, man, as a part of the community. So we are happy. I'm happy to come through. Apologize for the meeting I was on running over. Would have been here sooner, but
No, you're good. You're good.
we're
No
thinking about
need
doing a
to.
little Ohio State version of this too. So
Oh,
we're looking at some different things. But yeah, man, thanks for having me, guys.
yeah,
I got
no
a
problem.
problem. So you're thinking that you're just not getting enough great football watching the Cleveland
Browns.
Browns over and over and over, that you are
Yeah.
looking for more good football?
Yeah, there's just people so envious of rewatching this team over and over again.
I
that
could barely
can't
watch you
replicate.
replay a play over and over, and I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna go through this again. Like,
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot of mundane stuff, that's for sure.
I personally enjoy watching it. I know it's torture to you putting it together, but for someone who's I said this when Brad Ward was on, but someone who is we started this podcast 3 years ago, and I'm like, man, I need to go deeper into just knowing football, and your Substack has allowed that. So I appreciate the time, even though it's a sacrifice for you right now. Hopefully, in a couple of years, it's like a joy. But thank you for the time that you put in for that to help us make us kind of know what we're talking about a little bit.
No,
when
man,
we're
my
on.
pleasure. It's
Um,
yeah, it's my pleasure for real.
First thing, what do you think of the Kevin giving up play calling to Tommy Reese?
Yeah, I mean, the opinion I have of it isn't you know, it's not even like, I don't even know that any opinion on it is important, because it's like digging beyond the surface isn't going to result in anything meaningful. We just have to look at like what it is. 2 straight years of a failed offense, and 2 straight years he's given up play calling in the middle of the year. And that's not common. That's not normal. And especially not normal when we've seen him sort of usher in an offense he's more comfortable with, as they moved away from some of the influences of Ken Dorsey on helping Deshaun Watson, air quotes there. So it's a bad look. Whether you want to believe he's safe or not is kind of irrelevant. I just know that it's a sign of a significant failure, and that's never going to render. Very rare. I can't say never. You know, there are teams with a significant amount of skill who have turned some things over. I think the one that's probably the most popular recently is when the Eagles' first run to the Super Bowl, when Nick Sirianni relinquished the role to Shane Steichen, who, as we know, Shane has gone on to do a really nice job with the Colts. But it's not very popular concept to pass this along. It's certainly not a good look for Kevin, who's supposed to be this guy who leans into this stuff that is a part of what makes him, or his strength profile. So I don't really have a great take on this, other than it's not good. It's not what you want your organization to be doing. And it's a bummer that it's gotten here. And it's been, you know, a repeat cycle of the worst version of the NFL's offenses And I think you could even put this back into 2023 as well. So it's a crisis mode. I understand the talent is defunct in some places. That doesn't miss me, but it doesn't excuse the process by which I've tried to explain people that the coaching staff is also simultaneously failing them.
Yeah. You got a
It's been
question,
a big
Chad? You wanna-
topic of conversation. Well, I was going to say that's kind of the conversation we were having was when we were giving our midseason grades, like you grade the offense. I mean, the offense is an F right now, right? And for me, that carries over to the coaches. The only problem I have is when I look position by position, I'm not happy with most every position group except for maybe two on the offensive side of the ball. Like I don't think the offensive line right now is a great group as a whole. I'm hopefully they stabilize a little bit. I think the running back room is good while Judkins is playing and awful when he's not. So I would say the running back room is good, and I love and Harold Fannin, and I've never been a giant Njoku guy, but when you slide Njoku as your second tight end option and knowing the way he can block and some of the other guys on the team, I like that. I don't like anything else. And the worst thing not to like is the quarterbacks. So I guess I had that pause of like, if I were an offensive coach or head coach or coordinator, I wouldn't want to take this job because this is a failure position. He was already in it, but like the group that's there now, I'm like, I don't know how you could run half the stuff you want to run between the limitations we're seeing from Dylan and the stuff that we know about Flacco. And so that was my pause. So it was interesting to hear you put it that way, like the way you're looking at the film, that the plays are also failing.
Yeah, like they'll have answers, they'll have concepts that work or things that you would see teams build off of, a look that builds to a different look or some concept that looks like something and is something different. They're not doing much of that. And they're also spending certain games dropping a rookie quarterback, 50 times, a third round rookie quarterback 50 times with only 7 play action in the middle of that. Like the problem for me is, while that is totally correct, they're not going to be able to do top end NFL things with what's put on the, whatever you want to call it, plate in front of them. I think you can judge the talent separate from what they're getting from the talent. They have failed to get wide receivers involved. And you can say what you want about Jerry Jeudy, his performance across the season, et cetera, but they're getting the worst out of him after we saw what he's capable of doing the last few years. They obviously are dealing with some other problems at that position, but they're not even giving those guys a chance conceptually, schematically. Like the perfect example I had for this was a concept with Malachi Corley, who, again, a cast off from New York, totally understand that. But they've run 2 fly sweeps, which those are under center, flat motion, hand it to him, let him turn the corner, get upfield. The Browns defense, very rarely defends these very well. But the Browns have hit both of those for 15 or more yards. They've only run it 2 times this year, and both have gone for explosive gains. Not once have they used Corley in motion to deceptively sell that and go to something else off of it. And simultaneously, they've only given him the ball 2 times. When you're hunting explosive plays, you can't find them very often. To only give that player a chance 2 times on that concept across this portion of the season is pretty clear to me that they don't know how to take some things that are functional for them and work. And I've noted this too, like the offense that we thought we were going to see, Joel Bitonio talked about it this offseason. We had nothing really from Kevin that said this, but like when Joel says a reason he's coming back is because he's been told this, like I don't think Joel is lying there. They don't run things that Kevin used to run when he was at his most successful here. They don't run wide zone. They were 29th in outside zone runs for the year. And across their percentage of runs, it's I think it's the 4th most common run. So it's not a staple concept for them. And off of that, they're 31st in play action bootleg concepts. And like understanding, I've talked about this at length on my shows that like, yeah, the NFL is working away from that in a sense collectively because a lot of coordinators were doing it. The teams who have that as the core part of their DNA, the 49ers over the course of Shanahan's entire tenure in San Francisco have never given up on outside zone runs. They've consistently done it. Their bootleg usage off of it is down, but they still run outside zone consistently. It's their DNA. The Rams, who had been in outside zone, think back to like Sean McVay's early years with Todd Gurley. They are less in outside zone, more duo downhill gap concept stuff, but they still bootleg the hell out of you and put their quarterback on the perimeter and create moving pockets for him and get him out in space. That's been a core DNA part of McVay. The Browns have none of that. They have no identity. They've leaned into nothing that Kevin once was a part of successfully here, and they just are swimming upstream almost with no hands with their approach to this. Now, is Tommy Rees going to be different? I don't know. There's not enough NFL data here on him, but I just know that what Kevin used to be good at, when they found some success, which you could probably look at and point at and say, hey, man, Nick Chubb drove that engine and he got a bunch of people paid and got a bunch of people extensions because he created opportunity. When you mix in his lack of knowing how to structure this and coherently run things that build to other things, mixed with an aging offensive line, mixed with underinvestment in important positions in the skill group, and then obviously whatever has happened here at quarterback, you get the worst offense across 3 seasons in the NFL, and it's hard to keep stomaching that.
Yeah, that's
kind of
that's
you
exactly
hit my
how I
follow-up
feel.
question. Yeah, you hit my follow-up question though, which was going to be this. People keep saying like, "Oh, they went back to Kevin's offense and it still sucks." I watch this team every week, and whether I'm watching your breakdown or watching it on TV or catching, late like game recap stuff, this isn't this isn't that offense. This isn't 2020, 2021, and 2022. Like this is a completely different thing, especially from those early years. And I guess that's what gives me pause is he changing up this offense because he's like, we can't run that wide zone with these old, slow guards and injured tackles, or is it I don't want to run that anymore? Like, let's try something else. That's where I'm
Yeah.
lost. Is he
Yeah.
making
Your
these
guess is
decisions
as
on
good as
personnel
mine.
or- yeah, we
Yeah,
don't know. Like,
but
why are
ultimately,
you
like,
doing it so different?
their approach, like Kevin's whole thing, and I wrote about this like a week ago, where like Kevin's whole thing when he was hired is his main passion was making run game look like pass game. That was his whole thing, marrying those two concepts, which is smart football in the modern NFL. And he's failed to do that. That's kind of to my point about the Rams is they're not running outside zone, but they're still bootlegging. They're still moving the pocket. They're still creating moving spots, places for Stafford to get space, to take shot throws downfield, to make him comfortable. The Browns don't marry any of their run and pass stuff. And they're more often than not straight dropping Dylan Gabriel, who I think, again, limited, not playing well. I get it all. But he's playing the NFL's version of the hardest thing to do, which is like read out, drop back a high volume of times, read out defenses, and make decisive throws. Whereas guys who are getting coddled and babied are given 1 to 2 possible reads, understand where you're supposed to go with it right away. We're going to take the thinking out of the game for you. And he doesn't do that for his guys. So that's where people have been like, I'm ready to see Shedeur Sanders. And at this point, I'm like, I'm not, because good luck. Like, I'm not even that. That's not even like Shedeur Sanders hatred or anything. I'm just like, what about the current status, the current flow, the current structure makes you think Shedeur will be successful in this? So maybe Tommy, it's different with him. I don't know. I'm open to seeing it because I'm really tired of what I've been watching, but I don't have a bunch of like, hey, Browns fans, going to change. Can't wait to watch it with you. Maybe he has a Freddie Kitchens moment in the second half of this year. It's always possible, but the bar is low. We'll put it that way. And the future of Kevin, based off of the outcomes here, I don't think there's a really good outcome for him, because if Tommy does much better than he did with this group in the second half of the year, it's almost like a little bit of The Office. Like, what is it that you do here again kind of thing? Like, what do you, are you that good as like a CEO? I mean, I like Kevin, but he's not really an authoritarian by any stretch. I think he's fine in that position, but he's not Tomlin. He's not Vrabel. He's not Harbaugh. He's never been that guy. He's been more of like, hey, the Browns have an offensive minded head coach who can organize things, keep things simple for his quarterback, elevate quarterback. You got to think back to like what people were feeling good. And I'm like, man, all right, so you're on your third offensive coordinator. You've given up play calling 2 times. You're on your second DC. You're on your second special teams coach. At some point, there is a mirror, and it needs to be reflected, especially if this team is what, 7-27 by the end of the season. That's meaning they win 5 games, which means they win 3 more games this year, which as we sit here is like, that's hard to see given what we've watched the first 8 games. But even that good of an outcome, air quotes on good, is like he's 7-27 across 2 seasons, giving up play clock. It just there's not much positive to hold on to, guys.
Yeah, well, Jake, we thank you for coming on. We'll have you come on toward the end of the season to kind of
Love
give us
to.
a
Yes.
full year review. Hopefully changes might be happening. We'll see. Either way, if you want to plug your Substack, let people know where to find you and what good content you have.
Yeah, it's a short time for me tonight. I promise I will
you're
be
good.
back on at some point when I'm not getting the side eye text from the wife. You know that is. But I would love what you guys are doing. Thanks so much for the support. It's just Substack is it's an app you can download on your phone, and then inside the Substack universe is brownsfilmbreakdown.com, which is just deliverable content to your inbox, a newsletter, a podcast, and some pieces of film throughout the week to help you understand the Browns. And we're just trying to drive that passionate Browns community that recognizes the sport in the highest efficiency possible. So you can tell people in your life, well, this is actually the problem, or that's actually the problem, because you understand it. So that's the goal. Smart fans trying to understand this at the highest level, because I think Browns fans deserve that. So that's what we try to do, man. Thanks for first having me, guys, and continued success. And I will be glad to come by again before you know it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Jake.
Bye.
That was fun.
He's
More of that.
I'm not even telling you guys. I'm not just trying to hype them up, but their content is really good. Give them a follow, even if you don't want to pay the Substack price of $10 a month. They do give out free stuff as far as like even on X, he'll put out a clip or even like 10 minutes of his breakdown. It's still informative. Really good stuff, and I can't believe they're going to do he seemed pretty serious on Ohio State film breakdown,
Yeah.
which will be fun
Yeah,
to
being
watch.
facetious, I feel like Ohio State could balance you a little, where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I spend half the week watching Browns film. Now I can spend half the week watching football that's actually good, and that'd be nice. But yeah, guys, Jake Burns has been around for a while. He was involved with OBR for a while. I think when he started doing the Browns film breakdown and spun that off as his own thing, like, you get why, because it's such a unique thing that nobody else is doing, and I learned a lot from it. And I've told people this a lot. Like, I thought I had a pretty good grasp of football until I started living with a football player, and I was like, oh my god,
I
like,
don't know
and
nothing.
so it was a very eye opening. Like, I gotta learn a lot more about this. Like, I am a base level understanding compared to like what guys who really get it. So that I started watching a lot of like quarterback breakdowns with like Dan Orlovsky, or with, there's a pile of guys out there that will do like quarterback breakdown. But what's nice about Jake's stuff, especially Jake and Brad's show, is when they're breaking down the film, and I've said it's like it can be slow when we're bad. Like, it's tough to watch a play 10 times on repeat so you can see everything that was done. But it really gives you a massively different understanding of what's actually going wrong out there, versus just being like, this receiver sucks. And then you watch it and you're like, he's getting himself open on like 75% of his routes.
The quarterback's not seeing them.
Holy cow. Yeah. Nobody, and that's just something that you can't see from watching normal TV. Like, I love that Prime Vision. I love that they give you that all 22 view, and they give you player names. Being able to watch that view and watch a play a few times in a row and see what really happened, guys, it's invaluable to check that out.
Yeah, we'll have him on toward the end of the season, and he'll give us a full year review. But we'll get back into our position groups trending up or down. I believe we were on the tight ends, up or down. I have up. I have up. Now that we have Njoku, now I thought they was going to trade him. So I'm definitely going up because I think Njoku can still block, and Fannin can continue to learn through that. Maybe learn to even block even a little better.
Yeah.
So I got up.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that one, because again, Njoku, we haven't seen a ton out of him this season, but he should get healthier after this bye week from that thigh contusion or whatever it was he had. And Fannin, like, I'm just impressed with how much they can do with him and where they line him up, and how he's dropped a few passes, which wasn't his MO, But I just think, like, again, he at his age, I just expect him to get better. And Njoku, much like Jerry Judy, has just underperformed not only like what I expected, but like what his standard play is for the last couple of years. And if I'm guessing whether it's going to go continue to go down or go back up, I think it's more likely to like pop back to what he really is. So yeah, I'm up on that one too.
Um, quarterback, I got 6 feet deep. That is how down I am on him right now. I don't see. I mean, I guess it can't get any worse than what it is, so maybe I should go up. But I'm just being a negative fan right now because you just heard what Jake Burns said. This offense, maybe Tommy Reese will add a little flair, a little difference to it. But I think it's not going to get worse. It's not going to get any better. I think it's going to get
Yeah.
baseline.
That's kind of, well, yeah, I think that's the right pick. It's like, yeah, I could see it getting worse because if this starts to spiral, that could get worse. If Sanders comes in and is a mess, it could get worse. And we just have that slim chance that either like Dylan, I only think can play like a little bit better. Like I do expect better than we saw last week,
Yeah.
but I don't know how much better I expect from like the level of Dylan we saw those first 3 weeks. Sanders could be better, but I could see him. I follow Jake's point of like, how much better can he be with these guys? So it's much more likely he's around the same. And so, yeah, this one, I can't see this one going up
Yeah.
and I hope it doesn't go down. I
Next
really hope-
one's interior defensive lineman. Oh, up. I mean, you got Hall. You got. I mean, you
Mike
got
Hall just came back.
Balance. Yeah. So I mean, he just had one game. So I mean, you're gonna improve there, and hopefully Mason Graham grows.
I think Graham will get better.
Yeah, Mason Graham will get better. So I think it's up on that. Next is the edge. Up. I mean, you would think.
I went down.
Right. Oh, you did?
They're just so good right now. Like, how can
So,
Miles be
yeah,
better
how
than
can
a
you add
5-sack
to?
game?
Yeah,
Like,
that's true. Well, I'm hoping maybe Wright will get better.
This feels like
maybe
the opposite.
get
Like
more say.
when I say like the offense is an F, but maybe they can bring themselves up to a D if Sanders looks better or if like Dylan wakes up. Like this feels obvious. Like, yeah, they're an A. Maybe they're an A minus the second
Yeah.
half. I don't know. They've been so good at that position.
Cornerbacks. Down. This one was a tough one for me because you know what, up, because I think Campbell will improve in the defense. I
Okay.
think Campbell.
I do
will-
think
will-
I think they finally found their slot corner, which helps. And I
Yeah.
think as nervous as I was about that trade, Campbell looks like he is a fit for this defense. And he's made some pretty noticeable mistakes. He's also chased down Devon Achan and
Yeah.
he's already like got a pick and he's like covered some of the best receivers we played. Like I'm gonna go up. I think the only chance that goes down to me is if Ward gets his yearly injury
and he's out
at
for
some
4.
point. They're screwed. But if they
Yeah.
stay healthy, like I think they found their trio right now.
Safeties. I up. Down. I don't think. The thing is, I don't think our safeties have been a problem this year.
I think our safeties have outperformed what I
Yeah.
thought they
So
would be
to
this
sit there
year,
and say they can get better, I'm
Yeah.
like, can they? Can they get? Because I didn't expect a lot, but they
yeah,
really,
they're more even.
yeah.
But I think both of them, and it's not like Delpit is playing like high level football right now, and I think we underappreciate how good he has been of late. But like Ronnie Hickman was an undrafted free agent who's playing like at a Grant Delpit second round level. So I can't trend them up because I just don't know if they can be much better in this year. What if they could? That would be awesome. What they're both
Yeah.
still pretty young. Hickman especially is his first year as a full-time starter. If they could go up, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Rush to these. My kids need to go to bed. Oh, it's only one more. Linebacker.
One more.
Down.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean,
Linebacker's been great.
Carson's broken right now. So
Yeah.
the next couple of
This line-
games, it might.
If he misses
Yeah.
2 games, then that's worse than he was to start.
Yeah,
He's
I
been
mean,
awesome.
because he was such a good player. I mean,
Love
sucks,
you,
but-
Mo Diabate, but Carson Schwester's been the truth and they're just.
Yeah.
I think you could step in. I think you could fill. I think we've got. I think Bush has been playing mostly very well, but you can't think if Carson even misses a couple games like this linebacker core will be better. So yeah, down.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
well,
down.
that's it. That's all. Right, linebacker, we're done. We're gonna see how they played this second half of the season. Hopefully, a little better, especially offensively. We'll see how Tommy Reese's addition adds to this offense. It's gonna be fun. The best part is you can tune in every week, Tuesday, 7:30, and Saturday, 10 a.m., and we'll talk about it. And don't forget to go to our live show. Watch us live at 12 o'clock this Sunday. The good boys will be at the Moose Lodge in Elyria, Ohio. So if you're going to be there, come up there. If you're a member, watch the Jets game with them, and hopefully they don't lose, because if they do, it's going to be a tough Tuesday night show for me, at least. I can't speak for the other guys, but for me, if they lose this game,
This is gonna be a bad one. We
I'm
thought New
losing
England
it.
was bad. If they
Yeah.
this one off the bye, like this is gonna be a rough week for everybody.
Yep.
It
Well,
could
thanks
be
for
a rough
tuning.
week if they win.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in to our live stream today. And wherever you look from, thanks for Jake Burns for coming on the show. Until next time, like always, go Browns.